Okay, so we're gonna revisit the operating budget.
To add another $500. Yeah.
Okay, so we're currently voting on these two items that are in the HEB proposal.
Right.
Yes. And that, are you clear?
Yeah.
You clear? Have we missed anything that's not clear?
No, we just have to, I mean, the timing is pretty tight
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
to get a bid
Yeah.
and get those bids back in time, so there are gonna be some rapid decisions
Yeah.
about
Would you,
timing.
what is the
Should we vote?
motion that's on the floor? Does it include a dollar amount?
Yes, I have, yep.
Would you read it, please?
Selectman Markuson moved to approve the contract with HEB for both bidding assistance, $6,500, and construction administration, $6,000 to $8,000 for the Sodom Road Bridge repair. Seconded by Chip for discussion. The bid is to have the bidding done in time for town meeting. The contract includes HEB as the project administrator. The construction administration costs will be included in the warrant article.
Clear? All those in favor of the motion as read, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Anything else from the board? Anything else from you?
Should we sign this and so we can go back to work?
Yeah. That's right.
More
We'll sign it and send Chris off to
Yeah,
get the process going today.
yeah, so who is my primary contact to get the details of this contract together?
Would it be Jack? He worked on the Lang Pond Road.
Jack?
Yes.
Oh,
You got a minute?
You're not busy.
You have to initial each page, right?
So HEB is gonna do the bidding for the Sodom Road Bridge repair. And Chris's question is, who's his primary contact here? For any questions as it relates to the bidding package and that?
Yeah, there's plenty of requirements that we need to develop as part of the construction contract that's put out to bid. So timing of the construction, duration of the construction allowed, liquidated damages for not meeting those schedules.
I mean, do you have a time frame in mind of when it should be done? Time of year, or, I mean, obviously.
Yeah, that's up for discussion. I don't know if if you want this discussion to happen now or.
I mean, that should be in the bidding
Does it need to be
documents.
in the RFP?
I would think so.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So anyway, I think Jack is our contact there, and, we need to, I guess my view on repairing the bridge is we would like to do it as soon as it makes sense to do it. I mean, the load rating is, it's been derated, and we want to restore it. As earlier conversations have gone through with respect to what the cost of getting it done is, and one of the things you identified as a potential impact is the timing on it. So if it's going to cost us twice as much to get it done in April as it is to get it done in July, I guess my feeling is that that delay is not worth spending the extra money on.
Yeah, that's an unknown at this point.
Right.
And it isn't as if we're creating the wheel here. I mean, I'm sure you've done projects like this before.
Yes.
So I think if you send normal operating conditions to Jack, and then we come in on Fridays, it seems every Friday, and review and sign checks, and we could certainly go through all the conditions that we need to throw at this thing.
So I mean, the big question is the timing of the contract.
Mhm.
Either the town can specify the dates to
Right.
complete, or we can say it needs to be completed within 30 days, start to finish, or whatever date range that,
Right.
number of days that might be throughout this range of dates as it fits into the contractor's schedule. That would allow you the most cost.
Right, which is what we did with Lang Pond Road when we put that one out, as we said, this is when we want it completed, and the contractor must do the work within an X number of day period from when he starts to when he finishes.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me, is to provide the scheduling flexibility, but you don't want the thing opened up for the whole summer either.
It's gonna be, the road's gonna be closed.
And you're gonna do signage and all that in the contract and all that?
Yes.
Okay,
It isn't like you can open up one lane and.
exactly. No, it's not working on that small project.
Anything else on this topic, on this contract? Thank you, Chris.
Great.
While we're,
And so
Jack.
Jack is a contact, and if he doesn't have an answer, he's gonna be beating on us to make sure we get the information.
Okay.
And at this point, as you indicated, time is of the essence in terms of getting it out to get proposals back. So I guess, as far as I'm concerned, if this board needs to get together at any point in time to answer questions, then, you know, let us know, and you know, we're constrained that we've got to notice it 24 hours in advance, but that's, you know, other than that, yes, we sign checks on Friday, but let's say, for instance, 2 days from now, you have the information pulled together and you need verification from us. I'd like to think that we can get together within a day or so, not say, oh, we'll wait till the end of the week. Again, we're trying to
Push it out.
now that we've gotten our questions answered and got this thing signed, now we want to all systems go and do everything we can to get the information before March 13th, 14th.
okay, well, thank you.
Very good.
Just a point of order, folks, does it make sense that while we have the paperwork in front of us, we modify the
Yeah, let's do
crossing
it.
bridges?
Yep.
Thanks.
Good luck, sir.
Yes.
Travel safe.
All right.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Jake.
Thanks, Chris. In the notice. Like, you know what you want?
There you go. This is for you. There you go.
Thank you.
So I move that we reopen other highways and streets, 4313, to add an additional $500 to increase the total, grant total to $13,000.
I'll second. Any further discussion? Match up with your now? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Good questions there, guys. Nice job. Let's move on to review and approval of minutes. The first one is January 22nd, Selectmen's meeting. I'm all set.
I don't have anything.
I'll move we accept the minutes as recorded.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. The second set is Monday, January 29th, Selectmen's work session. I have nothing. Another nice job the way you highlight the,
I'm all set.
is there a motion?
And so move.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Let's move on to signature file. Under review, everyone's read the blue file, that's just the building permits. The first is notice of appointment for Kim Reed for the vacancy of Agricultural Commission. Term expires June 2021. Is the expiration date okay? I have a question mark.
Because it's longer than 3 years.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure how you wanted to handle that. Because I have everybody expiring in June now, like it's kind of on a cycle, so I wasn't sure.
June 20.
Yeah, I guess I would say that it ought to be June 2020.
Okay.
And then we don't end up with any term longer than 3 years, even though it's only 3 years and 3 months.
Can we just send it back to be retyped, or can you
It's up to
fix
you,
that?
unless you wanna put a line through it, and it's up to you. I'm
Okay.
sure it's fine either way.
I move we amend this to read June 2020 and move acceptance.
I'll second.
All set? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Next is just for the official record. This is reference Tufton Borough property assessments to all Tufton Borough property owners. This letter shall serve as formal introduction to the town assessor, Rod Wood. Mr. Wood will be performing field work on the behalf of R.B. Wood and Associates, the town of Tufton Borough's contacted assessing firm. The Board of Selectmen would appreciate your consideration in allowing Mr. Wood to do the necessary work to assure you a correct and accurate assessment. Please feel free to request Mr. Wood's picture identification. Additionally, Mr. Wood's vehicle is a 2013 black Toyota main plate 1993 T. Tom Y. Young. Mr. Wood and his vehicle are familiar to the Tufton Borough Police Department, the Board of Selectmen, and town office employees. Do not hesitate to call with any questions or comments. The Selectmen's office is 5439 extension 10. The Police Department is 8695. Okay to sign this?
Yep.
The next item is from Rod Wood, the contracted assessor, and this is a land use change tax for property tax map 65-3-7 on Middle Road. The applicant seeks an abatement to be removed from the current use.
For what purpose?
The corrected, let's see now, needs to be, the amount of acreage that needs to be removed is the actual area that has been disturbed by excavation. In this case, it is 0.5 of an acre, not the 2 acres previously reported. A corrected current use map has been provided by the property owners. The tax use abatement is in the amount of $3,750. Needs to be granted. Have you read this?
Wait.
Hmm?
So they want to take property out of current use? Or are we abating some tax that's already been put on the land?
The 2 acres was taken out of current use for excavation instead of a half acre where the excavation's taking place. So the tax was assessed on that 2 acres instead of.
But you can't take a half an acre out of current use. The only way you can take land out of current use is in a zoning configuration, so I'm not gonna vote for that.
Do you want to sit down with Rod and clear it up with him?
He's here today, if you'd like me to grab him.
Yeah, I think we ought to have a chat with him, just to make sure we're all on the same
Why
page.
don't I wait 30 seconds, see if he's available?
Where is this land, Middle Road?
Yeah, Whitten.
So they didn't create an, wait till it comes in, I'm sorry.
So he had to leave for an appointment and he won't be back.
Okay.
We just missed it.
You won't go back, okay. I move we table this.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye. Yeah, it doesn't seem as though they created a lot. So I'm not sure what, and the excavation area is certainly larger than 2 acres,
Sure.
but we'll see.
Okay. Next item is new business. Okay, and next is budget review. I think one of them involves Adam. Chief? We're moving on to budget review, long-term bonds and notes. Is that one of the things you were curious about?
Yes.
Okay, welcome. Who wants to begin? Do we want Diane in to have a conversation with us?
I can update you if you'd like.
Why don't you begin?
Okay, maybe, and then if you have something else. So my understanding from DRA is that the ambulance and rescue vehicle from 2006, that were a warrant article in 2016, as the payment is raised and appropriated each year, it should be a warrant article each year for the term of the agreement, because it contains an escape clause. With that said, it got missed last year, and this year it got caught, and so it's been removed from the budget, which you have these new sheets now, and put into a warrant article.
Okay, so we just have to back the approximately $90,000 out of the budget.
Right.
And
But
put
it
it,
wasn't,
put it into an article.
Yeah. Which you have a draft of in your paperwork, yep.
So, interest long-term bonds for 4721.
And then 4711 as well.
What about the fire station?
That's approved.
No, I have a question.
I think that, I can ask Diane, but I think that's because it's a building and didn't contain an escape clause.
That was approved by a supermajority at town meeting.
Yeah,
That's
building,
right.
yeah.
And a supermajority can commit the town to
long-term planning.
long-term expenditures in the future. My understanding is the reason you've got to take the lease payments out of the operating budget is because the lease payments are approved on an annual basis for the term of the lease. And given that DRA wants it to be a specific article on the warrant that's dealt with, not just part of the operating budget. Right.
That's the escape clause.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Any
that's,
given year,
town meeting's
vote
escape
not to-
is to vote that down.
No.
Now, I guess, in my view, rational town meeting, recognizing that if we vote not to pay the lease this year on those vehicles, then the vehicles are gone, and the money that we put into them and everything else at this point disappears. So the benefit that we've accrued and paid for, we have nothing left from. But that's why they want the escape clause item as a separate article on the warrant. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah, you summarized it well.
Do we have any literature on this?
I don't know if Diane does, I would ask her.
Yeah, that was my
No,
question is it
I'm-
in writing?
Yes, I'm going to go back to when I was on the budget committee. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but this isn't your first lease vehicle, is it?
No, they've missed it since 2005.
Okay, back then, the escape clause was added, and it was recommended so that if the town votes to, for whatever reason, they do away with this fire truck, and it does happen places in the United States, that the escape clause protected the vendor.
I have no idea. I know that at town meeting it was asked if escape clause was included in the whole thing. And then it was on everything that we have
Well, I mean, the
we've
basic,
done.
the things you're dealing with are, if you are indebting the town for more than a 3-year term of a selectman, you gotta get a supermajority anyway. But in addition to that,
Should be right in.
it's protecting the seller.
Yes, because as I remember, I went back to my notes when I was chairman of the budget committee, it protects the seller, so the town can't say, this is a piece of junk. You know, we're 3 years into a 5-year lease, and we're just gonna renege on the note. And it prevents him and the town of replacing it with a similar type vehicle or an alternate vehicle.
Well, plus from the
But I'll do it every year.
capitalism works strange things when it comes to leases and corporations, but I think, I don't see what is the purchase option at the end, $1 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, for all intents and purposes, a purchase, it's just in the form of a lease. So we're building equity as we go.
Absolutely. Which is what brings you back to the, if town meeting votes the lease payment down, then we're done. Then that equipment
It's gone.
is gone.
Yeah. But it also gives us the opportunity to say, you know, I don't like this debt shit, so I'm gonna get the town to vote $300,000, we're just gonna pay the lease off today.
Now, there was one piece of equipment that we actually paid off, what, 1.5 years ago, correct?
Yeah,
And saved the interest. It
if
was-
you don't save a lot of interest, but a lot of it's just psychological,
Yeah.
like that, you know?
Was there some paperwork?
Should be right in.
Okay.
Yeah, she was just finding it.
Anything else?
So
While you're here?
4721, we're talking about both of those, 4711 and 4721. Combined
Removing the ambulance and rescue vehicle
for both.
principal and interest payments from the operating budget and placing them.
Is there a motion on
And
long-term bond and notes? We're gonna have to change the last column, next to last column, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready to vote on that?
Well, I think there was
2
a,
seconds.
there's a question we're waiting for.
Okay.
Diana, right?
Yes.
So we can make a motion and leave it open.
Yep, open to
So I'm
discussion.
gonna move that we reduce the line 4711, 02 from $82,843 to 0. Changing the long-term bond total from 236,554 to 153,711.
Yep, 234,501 I have 501.
That was last year. That was last year.
554.
Okay, you're going by this total here.
Well, he's going by what we approved already, which you don't have in front of you because she's pulled it off.
I will second that for purposes.
Even though you don't have it yet. Trust. It's a wonderful
Yeah.
thing.
Yes. And it's open for discussion.
Here she comes.
Can you, I'm sorry, Chip, can you repeat that? That was the 40, I didn't have that.
4711,
Yeah. 02,
02,
711, yeah. Or the whole thing.
82,843 becomes 0.
82,843.
That's line 2. Line 3 goes from 236,554 is reduced to 153,711.
Okay, thank you. I understand now, thank you.
Okay, I thought you just found this.
Welcome. Always something interesting, isn't there?
Hold on a moment.
Yep. Why don't you review what you have for information?
Article 5, purchase new fire truck. This is how I found out about the rescue and the ambulance. She was in the process of reviewing that warrant article for the 5-year lease and with the escape clause, and it was at that point. She said, this lease contains an escape clause which permits the termination of the lease on an annual, oh, wait a second. I have to back up this one, please. This lease agreement contains an escape clause which permits the termination of the lease on an annual basis. In subsequent years, an article should be placed on the warrant to raise the annual payment. If the annual appropriation is not approved, the lease terminates. My question was, can the future payments be included in the operating budget under accounting number 4711 and 4721 for interest rather than a separate warrant article? Her response, this lease agreement contains an escape clause which permits the termination of the lease on an annual basis. In subsequent years, an article should be placed on the warrant to raise the annual payment. If the annual appropriation is not approved, the lease terminates. And then she goes on to say, for full transparency, because the lease contains an escape clause and only requires a majority vote for passage, this type of lease agreement should be brought in front of the voters for their authorization. When a lease agreement does not contain an escape clause, the understanding is that it binding future meetings. The understanding is that it binds future meetings and will be included in the operating budget, which is why it requires a 2/3 ballot vote for passage. And then she goes on to say, this lease agreement contains an escape clause which permits the termination of the lease on an annual basis. In subsequent years, an article should be placed on the warrant to raise the annual payment. She's being repetitious. If the annual appropriation is not approved, the lease terminates. So I responded, okay, good to know. Then why are you not approving this warrant article as written? I was waiting for her to approve it. Also, the town of Tuftonboro has another 5-year lease note that is in its 3rd year. I will have to notify the selectmen about placing another warrant article to appropriate funds to make the note payment in April. Then she responds again, this lease agreement contains an escape clause which permits the termination of the lease on an annual basis. Now, I've already read this, but she's just saying it again. And then she says, oh, because I did respond back and said, well, are you going to approve this warrant article for the fire truck? And then she says, there is nothing wrong with the warrant article wording. I was just providing technical guidance on lease agreements with an escape clause or without an escape clause. It was informational guidance. She did eventually approve the fire truck warrant article.
So this is Article 5 is something we're gonna have to explain at town meeting, but this is gonna come forward every year for 5 years, just as Article 11. I think that's the 11, right? No,
No,
no, it's
Article 16.
16, right. That's all right, fine.
So she is saying yes to the most recent pieces of apparatus that were purchased, correct?
The ambulance and the rescue.
And what else is she saying yes to?
She's saying that we have to put it, like the fire truck, this is a 5-year lease with an escape clause, so that also has to go.
The new fire truck?
Yes. Every year, moving forward, we need to appropriate the payment each year to make the note.
This is something new, correct?
Well,
It's a different interpretation than we had in the past. I understand the rationale for it because
Yep.
the whole idea about an escape clause is that we can decide not to do it. And the way town meeting decides not to do it is they vote against a particular expenditure. And the only way they can vote against a particular expenditure is if it's singled out by itself. Because somebody at town meeting can adjust the total of the operating budget, but town meeting cannot adjust the internals of the operating
They
budget.
don't have line item veto.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
And there's also a different, it's, the vote is 2/3 versus majority.
yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
So you need 2/3 of a vote on the Hamilton rescue.
No.
No,
No.
Okay.
you only need a majority
You
on
just,
both.
you just
Well,
need,
just-
you need a simple majority, but it has to be affirmed every year through the term of the lease. Right? It has to be acted affirmatively on by town meeting, not just,
do you have any questions for Diane?
No.
And you'll get a copy of that paperwork. Any
Stop
questions?
by my office.
Any questions for the board?
No, my question is for DRA is what changed or how did they miss it since 2005?
yeah.
Yep.
So,
Somebody
I think it's a valid question, but the other side of that is I don't know if the interpretation changed or if they just missed it. I'm not sure it really makes any difference at this point, other than if we're trying to poke somebody in the eye.
It doesn't,
And
it
generally, you don't want to poke DRA in the eye.
doesn't effectively change the overall budget anyway.
No,
It's
all it
just
does,
moving it from the operating to the
Right.
warrant.
right,
But we have the opportunity to lose 2 vehicles that are functioning very well
right.
in doing their job.
Right.
Well, we could-
No,
We could just buy 3,000 buckets and people could put their own fires on us, but that's an option, right?
yeah.
Now, we have long-term bonds and notes for 7-Eleven. There's a motion been made and seconded to amend that to the new lower total. Are we ready to vote on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. We also need a motion for 4721 interest long-term bonds.
Right.
The same thing has to be done. Is there a motion?
I will move that we adjust 4721 to remove the ambulance and rescue vehicle payment and to adjust the total for 2018 to $38,274.
I'll second. Any further discussion? And all those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes 3-0. Are we all set on long-term bonds and notes and interest bonds and notes? Yes?
What,
think so.
Chief, when was the fire station built?
2013 it was finished. It was started in 2000.
So we started making payments in 2013.
Mhm.
Was that a 10-year loan?
It's a 15.
15.
Construction loan.